Chapter 16. When we reached the castle, the first thing I did was ask Lil about Christina. She hadn't come back yet, but there wasn't a thing I could do about it except keep looking for the rest of the items. With only one more day, I was beginning to feel desperate. The two items we still needed to acquire seemed to be the hardest to find. I tried not to think about what would happen if we couldn't find them. Exhausted, I took my time going downstairs and was surprised at how quiet the castle seemed. Edric hurried ahead and was already on his way back up with food before it even crossed the kitchen threshold. My mother entered the room while I was looking for a plate. Eyeing my dusty hem, she asked, "And where did you go this time?" "The magic marketplace," I said without thinking. "Oh, really?" Her eyes narrowed into glittering slits. "You're practicing magic, aren't you? I knew it was only a matter of time." I realized my mistake, but it was too late. I'd already said too much. "I've learned a few things," I said, watching her warily. "I've been telling you for years that you weren't to be involved with magic," Mother said, her voice getting shrill. "You never can listen, can you? It was for your own good, you know. I was trying to keep you from getting your heart broken. I suppose you're already hoping you'll be the next Green Witch. Well, it never will happen. You're not smart enough, and you're so clumsy you'll probably drop the wrong ingredients into your potions. You simply don't have what it takes." "I've only just started." "This is a terrible time for you to do this. Our kingdom is at war, because of you, I might add, and Gracina is off to who knows where." Mother sighed. "Your father and I hoped the talent would pass you by. The ability to use magic can ruin a woman's life. Is Prince Edric aware that you're involved with the practice of magic?" "He knows all about it. And he's still serious with his intentions towards you." "Yes, Mother, he is. He knew about my interest in magic before he ever even mentioned marriage." "Extraordinary. Very few men want to marry a witch, princess or not. I take it that you still haven't accepted his offer?" "Not yet, no." "Accept before you do something stupid and scare him off. Men don't wait forever. Now tell me, did you get what Christina needs?" "We have 2 of the things, but we still have to find 2 more." "Then you'd better get busy. We need her back here concentrating on her work now. Your father has taken his army and started for the border. Our informants tell us that Beltran's army has passed through the Crimson Hills and will reach the border tomorrow night. His wizard rides with him, which is how they make it past the trolls and the hills so quickly." "Christina knows who the wizard is. She doesn't think he'll be a problem." "For the old Christina, perhaps, but I'm not sure if she can handle this the way she's been acting. Even in the best of times, love and magic don't always mix well, which is something you should remember." Turning abruptly, Mother stalked from the room, leaving me even more worried than before. I crept up the stairs to join Edric in Gracina's room, where we sat in front of the fireplace, while Lil peppered us with questions about our excursion. By the time she ran out of questions, I could barely keep my eyes open. "We better get some sleep," Edric suggested when I yawned. "We're going to have another busy day tomorrow." "Before we do, I have to tell you that I spoke with my mother. She said father is leading his army to the border. Beltran is only 1 day's march from here, and Mother is worried Gracina won't be back in time to help. I just wish there was something I could do." "You are doing something. You're helping your aunt so she can help your father when she does get back. You can't do everything." "I can't even seem to do this one job right. We still haven't found the dragon's breath or the feather, and time has almost run out." "I'm sure we'll find them," he said. Suddenly I heard the swish of straw brushing on stone, and a figure shrouded in black shot through the window on a broom. Halfway into the room, my grandmother hauled in her broom handle, stopping it in midair. She hopped off with a grunt and turned to look around. Frightened by grandmother's sudden arrival, Lil scurried across the table and crouched behind a bouquet of crystalline flowers. Grandmother scowled at us when she didn't see what she wanted right away. "Where's my old trunk?" she demanded. "Which old trunk?" I asked, thinking there might be more than one. "Don't be a ninny," said Olivine. "The trunk I gave to help that whelp Christina." "It's in the storage room." I pointed to the door and could have opened it for her, but she stomped across the carpet, flung open the door, and disappeared inside. "What's that all about?" Edric asked. "I don't know," I said, "but I think I'd better find out." Motioning for Edric to stay where he was, I followed my grandmother through the door and found her crouched on the floor beside the trunk, clinking jars together. "What are you looking for?" I asked, trying to see around her hunched shoulders. "Here it is," she crowed, holding up a bottle of werewolf whiskers. "Best thing for tracking distances less than 50 miles. Werewolves have an excellent sense of smell. That old charlatan Ulfat doesn't stand a chance now." Climbing to her feet, she slapped the lid shut with a bang. I cringed, not sure what would happen if the jars broke. "Now what about you?" said my grandmother, leaning close to stare into my eyes. "Have you practiced your magic?" I took a step back. "Yes, I think it's improving, too." "Good," she barked. "Keep it up. It's the most important thing a girl your age can do." Shoving past me, grandmother stomped back into the main room. "So where's Gracina, that worthless daughter of mine? I have to set that feeble-brained nitwit straight about a few things." "I don't know. I don't know, she said, mocking me in a shrill falsetto. Well, somebody has to. If I don't hear her in 1 minute. Wait, let me guess. She's out looking for that brainless bumpkin helper, isn't she? But it won't do her a bit of good. Even if she finds him, I'm not going to turn him back. In fact, I think I'll wait right here. When she gets home, You will do no such thing, said a deep male voice. I shivered as the temperature of the room dropped. Edric's face turned pale as he stared at the blue glow taking shape by the door. Is that a ghost? He asked, his voice a faint whisper. That's my grandfather, King Aldred, I said. I was surprised to see him outside the dungeon. Haven't you plagued these poor children enough, Olivine? Grandfather asked, looking a little more solid now. I could hear you even from down in the dungeon. You have no right to be here pestering Emma and her friends. And who's going to make me leave? Grandmother asked. I will, if I must. Although we could still see through him, Grandfather seemed to grow larger and more threatening. You can't do anything to me, you old weak fool. I have more power in my little toe than you'll ever have, ghost or not. Perhaps, said Grandfather, but I know more about you than you know about yourself. For as long as you lived in this castle, I kept track of everything you did, even after I died. If you don't leave immediately, I'll tell everyone your secret recipe for witch's brew, the potent kind you use for your most powerful spells. You wouldn't dare, shrieked my grandmother, flinging up an arm as if to ward him off. Do you know how many years it took me to come up with that formula? 7, I believe, so you'd better get out of here before I give it all away. Lizard lips and nose. Okay, I'm going. But Christina will regret the day she turns Harlan back into a human. That girl should have learned to listen to her mother. His name is Haywood, said my grandfather, as Grandmother stuck her hand out and snatched her broom from the air as it flew to her. It could be Huckleberry, for all I care, Grandmother screamed, hopping onto her broom. With a shriek of rage, she shot through the window and was gone. Thank you for coming by, Grandfather, I said. My pleasure, Emma. If there is any way I can help, be sure to ask. I'm not stuck in that old dungeon like some of the ghosts. Now go get some rest, my dear. You look like you could fall asleep standing up. Indeed, my head scarcely touched my pillow before I was asleep. Even so, I awoke earlier than usual and dressed in a hurry, anxious to get on our way. It was Friday, and we only had 1 day left to find the dragon's breath and the feather. When I reached Gersina's rooms, Edric was taking his new sword out of the scabbard for the first time. This sword didn't sound at all like the others. Why was I made into a sword? Why not a pen for writing? I much prefer the written word. I do not like the fighting. Fighting is both to friends and foes, brings us naught but heartfelt woes. If I could, I'd stop it now, never fight again somehow. Edric grimaced. I could only imagine how disappointed he felt upon hearing the sword's song. Whatever you do, he said, from gritted teeth, don't say I told you so. I don't really need to, do I? I said. It's supposed to be a named sword. Why don't you ask it for its name? Edric snorted. Talk to it? It's a sword, not a person. It's an enchanted sword. You could try at least. I will, said Lil, hopping up and down. Sword, tell us your name. Light shimmered on the sword's blade, but it remained silent. Don't bother, Lil, I said. I think Edric has to do it. The sword has been his since the moment he drew it from its scabbard. If it means that you'll leave me alone. Sword, what's your name? Light flashed on the blade, and it began to sing again. My name is Ferdinand, but you can call me Ferdy. I've been told I sing too much. I am a little wordy. My sword's name is Ferdy? What kind of name is that for a sword? I think it's a nice name, said Lil. It's kind of friendly. A sword's name shouldn't be friendly. It should be elegant and powerful, a strong name for a strong weapon. Lil ruffled her wings. But that's just it. I don't think he wants to be a weapon. That's great. I'm about to face dragons with a sword that doesn't want to be a sword. Face dragons? Asked Lil. We have to get the dragon's breath, remember, I said. Since we can't ask Christina for suggestions, we're going to look for one in the one place we know we'll find dragons. We saw one in the enchanted forest when we were frogs, and from signs they left it looked like there were probably more. Does Christina have a vial that we could use to collect dragon's breath? It would help if we could do it while the dragon's asleep, so we're going to need some sleeping potion too. I might have something you can use. Oh dear, Christina isn't going to like this at all. Lil was muttering to herself as she fluttered into my aunt's storage room. Before we go, we should probably put the magic beans in the silver chest, I said, holding my hand out to Edric. Do you have them with you? Of course, he said, dipping into his belt pouch. They tasted strange, though. I couldn't believe my ears. You ate them? Just the insides. We only need the husk, remember? But they're magic beans. You have no idea what they can do. Edric's face flushed as he looked away. Actually, I do. They gave me a stomachache right after I ate them, but that went away when the gas started. It's kind of embarrassing to talk about. When will you learn that there are some things that you can't eat? I'll be fine once I get over this little problem. You worry too much. Well, one of us has to because you don't worry enough.